Our Real GM. I'm your host, as always, Slice, and I'm joined today with my co-hosts, Coke and Jim. Also with us is our executive producer, Moo. And then joining as the ops today with us is Greg Dudek of the Brockton Enterprise and Patriot Ledger. You can follow him directly on Twitter at GDudek10 as he brings in his point of view from a Celtics perspective. Greg, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it. It was a fun game tonight, and look forward to breaking it down with you, fellas.
Fun for you guys, tough for us, man. The Knicks did what we've been doing lately, losing another close game down the stretch, this time 101-99 versus the Boston Celtics to drop to 25-27 for the season. Now, the first quarter was a low-scoring affair with a Derrick Rose three in the last second to bring the Knicks within 21-19. Then the second quarter was another close one before the Celtics got up to a 7-point lead with about 3 minutes to go. But the Knicks took advantage with 3 straight threes down the stretch to end the half down 47-46. RJ Barrett led the Knicks with 16 on a strong shooting performance, while Jaylen Brown paced the Celtics with 13. The third quarter was one of runs for both teams. The Knicks started off with a 9-0 run to go up 7 early on before Boston followed that up with a 10-0 run to go back up by 3. The Knicks then ended the third on a 7-2 run to go up 73-70 behind Julius Randle's 13 points in that quarter. The fourth quarter is one Knicks fans have been used to lately, with the Knicks jumping up to another fourth quarter lead. Tonight it was 7 before fumbling the game down the stretch. Marcus Smart hit 2 big threes, the first of which gave the Celtics their first lead of the quarter with about 4 minutes left. RJ Barrett then hit his own big three to tie the game at 93 with just under a minute before Marcus Smart hit the backbreaker to put the Celtics up 3, which ended up being the go-ahead basket, and that ultimately ended up being the 2-point win for the Celtics. Boys, I feel like we've seen the same script over and over and over again in recent game with the Knicks, and it was frustrating to see a great RJ Barrett shooting performance go to waste. Frustrating is probably the best way to describe how we've all been feeling as of late after games. Cope, kick us off with your thoughts, man.
Well, again, we're in a tough one down the stretch, and for whatever reason, we just don't have enough to pull out a close win. The Knicks have done an admirable job this year. We step on the court every night. There's not a game that we show up to that we can't win. But the thing is, there's just something missing, and it's pretty obvious that it's on the offensive side of the ball. Every night it's a struggle to score 100 points, and you just can't do that in 2021. You saw a team tonight that faced off against another team that kind of was their mirror image in the Celtics. Two teams that are well coached, they defend, have 2 stars, and they really don't back down from anyone. But at the end of the day, I think the difference was that the Celtics have a big shot maker. Actually, they have 2, Jason Tatum, but also they have I'm sorry, his name is
Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart hit it. Marcus Smart.
Sorry. Marcus Smart. They have Marcus Smart, and he's a big shot maker. The percentages are not there, but it seems that whenever it counts, he'll knock down a big 3, and he has the guts to take it. So that kind of did us in tonight. And kicking it back to Julius Randle, that's our all-star, but he just doesn't have it in the second half of the season for whatever reason. The knock on Tibbs is that he overplays his guys, and we just keep saying it. But here he is trotting them out there, playing extensive minutes. And I think we're seeing, the results that he just doesn't have the legs to take us home in the fourth quarter. We saw RJ get us back in the game, hit a big 3, but he also had a turnover. And, he's going through some growing pains as he's learning how to be a guy who, can come and perform in the clutch. But, he's going to have to go through his bumps and bruises and take his L's. And we're seeing that. So, Jim, give me your thoughts on the game.
Reggie, what are you doing, man? That double team, what are you doing? You got to double. He's not the guy that's supposed to go double. That's just one pass and hit a shot. You can't do that. Somebody, it should have been Elf or whoever was guarding the guy in the corner. That's the guy that you're supposed to bring and have that double team. It's just that killed us. And all Smart had to do was just hit a wide open 3, and he was standing there still. That was it. That was the backbreaker. As much as it was awesome to see RJ go 6 for 6 from 3, hit a bunch of shots, like you said, that turnover, man, it killed. He's got ice water in his veins. The fact that ESPN didn't put him in that top 25 is just crazy to me. Especially, and he definitely played tonight. He was mad about it, and it's so rare for a 20-year-old to just be able to make a huge mistake like he did, and then just bounce back and hit a three that tied the game. And man, I think bad Randall's back. I think that thigh contusion or whatever it is really bothering him, because he was grimacing again tonight, and he's been taking some really bad shots. I'm just like, see him like take some mid-range jumpers, and I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like stop it. Like, go to the hoop. Like, the Celtics don't really have rim protection. So that was frustrating, just because I guess my last thought is really that no one really had RJ's back tonight. No one was really efficient, and it's like we needed somebody else to step up. Like, Randall did put up a lot of points, but he was super inefficient, and it really shows that we're still missing somebody. Moo, now to you. Moo, are you muted?
You're still muted, Moo.
All right, sorry guys.
All right,
so yeah, I mean, so it's another loss, like you guys said, a close loss. I mean, it's close, right? Knicks of the past would have just folded, but it's still a loss. So what bothered me was, what's going on? Is it something specific to our number 1 and 2 options, or is it just something that could be backed up by stats, right? So did a little bit of digging. There's a stat called clutch stats, right? So there's different variations of it. But the clutch stat I'm looking at is specifically clutch points, right? So the stat is points per 36 in the last 5 minutes of a game where neither team is up by more than 5 points. So they actually have a stat. So if we look at the top 30, top 50 guys, I can tell you right now, there are only 5 front court players in the top 50 as far as being able to score in the clutch. So for the Knicks, you guys, I mentioned it pre-show. You guys want to guess who the Knicks' top 2 clutch scorers are? You'd be surprised.
I'm going to go
Alec
Emmanuel.
Burks got to be one.
Yeah, Emmanuel Quickly and Alec Burks, I think, are going to be my 2.
Jim hit it right on the nail.
Nice.
Quickly is ranked 35th in the NBA in clutch points. Burks is two spots behind him at 37. The next closest, Julius, is all the way down at 55. So, and Barrett, I'm sure everybody's going to ask, he's actually 73. Okay.
Well, hopefully he's moving up. He hit a lot of big shots tonight, so maybe we'll go to 61 instead of 73.
Yeah, he's been moving up, but I think the stress is, the top guys are all guys that can create shots off the dribble, right? Top number 1 is SGA.
Okay.
Second is Dame. Embiid is actually 3rd, which really is an indication of how good a player he is. But the rest of the guys,
a surprise for me, actually.
Yeah,
is it?
Yeah, I was gonna say Greg just saw Embiid last night.
Yep.
Yeah, Embiid was a monster.
Yeah, he
exactly.
He looked like Shaq. Yeah, I saw him hit like a step back 3 at one point. It was just like ridiculous.
Yep.
Celtics no answer him. Took 20 free throws too. If he didn't miss extended time, he'd probably be the MVP.
Yeah. And the only other guys in the top 30, Zion at number 14, Jokic, which I don't think is really a surprise because he's just a monster right now.
Yeah, I think he's the MVP. I'm not like a big like Raptor and LeBron guy, but like if you like look at all of those like kind of like weird advanced stats, he's like first in like all of them. He's just like having an unreal year, so it's not a surprise that he's there.
Right. So I think I don't want to blame this on Randall, because out of all of the bigs meaning power forwards and centers, he's actually 7th. That's actually pretty good overall.
Can't
but
complain.
I think it just really stresses what we kind of already know. That you need guard play, right? A top tier guard, in order to really close out games and really win. So I mean,
we saw that with both teams. Really, it's like
absolutely.
And this is how we can segue to Greg's thoughts. Is that like it's like you kind of watch Tatum and Brown do something with the ball, and we're like, give the ball to RJ and Randall, like make something happen, please. So Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, it's just like you kind of going off that point right there. The Celtics rely so heavily on Tatum and Brown to really carry the offense, and it showed tonight, especially right out of the gate. Jalen, only took 10 shots versus the 76ers on Tuesday. He comes out, he takes 12 in the first quarter. So he was really like in attack mode right off the bat. And Tatum, it's been taking him a while to get started, but you see him there, time after time. Second half, they're running through him. The offense through him, trying to get him to go to the bucket. For the Celtics, the Stevens said tonight that it was their most physical game, and it definitely was. This is not the brand of basketball they've been playing all season, and it's weird because you never know what you're gonna get from the Celtics on any given night this season. I've been saying, the best thing that they're good at this season is inconsistency, because you just never know what version of the Celtics are going to show up on any given night. And this has been this performance, especially in the fourth quarter, was complete opposite of what they've done this season, where they're usually the team that fades once adversity hits in, and down 7 in the fourth, you're like, here comes the same old script for the Celtics, where they get bullied a little bit by the Knicks and they're not going to respond, and then Marcus Smart just does Marcus Smart things. I'm sure you guys have seen it, time and time again. Everyone saying, no, don't take those shots, and comes up and drains a couple of them. Not lacking for confidence whatsoever, even though he had only hit one shot going into the fourth quarter.
What I actually thought was a bigger deal was that offensive rebound and putback that he had. Obviously the 3 to take the lead is a big deal, but like we had a little bit of momentum going, and that just totally zapped it.
Yeah, that offensive rebound was huge. I think it was in between Randall and maybe Nerlens Noel after Jason Tatum takes a tough fade away from the corner. So you're thinking, great defensive possession by the Knicks, where every possession down there in crunch time so critical, and Smart just kind of swoops in and puts it back in. And that's just kind of what Marcus Smart does. You have to deal with his headaches, and as Steven said in his postgame press conference, his home run swings that he likes to take, because the fans have been getting on him a lot lately of, taking a ton of shots that are just forced, especially in the fourth quarter when Jaylen Brown's not touching the ball, when Jason Tatum's not touching the ball, and there's Marcus Smart thinking he's Steph Curry hucking up, 28 footers, and you're just scratching your head. And a lot of people actually wouldn't have minded seeing him get traded at the trade deadline. That's how frustrated they've been with Smart, because he's the longest tenured Celtic on this team. He's been around for the runs with Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder, and when Tatum and Brown first came in the league. So he's been here a while now, and people are kind of getting sick of his act, no matter what. But the team has full confidence in him, or at least Stevens says it to the media, and Marcus Smart keeps up his bravado of, I'm just going to keep on shooting, as he said tonight too. So it was much different to see the Celtics come through in the fourth quarter, because you mentioned those clutch stats. They've been one of the worst teams in the NBA when it comes to the fourth quarter. And going against a Knicks team that plays good defense, once they got down 7, it seemed like things, weren't going to materialize for them. And they were able to put it together, which was a surprise, and they kind of called it an old school win, which it was, because they haven't had many wins like this where it was just a hard-fought, gritty win.
Do you think Tatum is go Slice, I'm sorry.
No, you're good, Jim. Go ahead. You got a question?
Oh, yeah. Do you think, because you said you guys have been really struggling down the stretch, I find it so surprising because Tatum is so good. Do you think he's still suffering lingering effects from COVID? Because he was out for a long while, I think, right?
Yeah, so he missed a good portion of time. He was also lucky because the Celtics had like 3 games postponed, so I don't think he missed as many games as if the Celtics had just kind of continued playing. But he says he has struggled, with his breathing's not exactly right. How much is that really is affecting him? No one really knows, but he says he has had after effects of it. And with him, with the Celtics, it just becomes the biggest thing is they get so stagnant with isolation ball. It's basically, I'm sure you probably saw it at points tonight too, where pass the ball to Jason, clear out one side. Everyone watches Tatum dribble for 15 seconds, and then he shoots it, and everyone goes back on defense. And it's been like that all the time. And we've noticed that when the Celtics are playing their best is when they have their highest assist totals, when they're up to 30, 35 assists. In 3 out of their latest 4 wins, they had 35 assists in the game, 29 assists in the game. So when the ball is moving and they're attacking, they don't get into the paint much, which was different tonight. It felt like Jalen and Jason were really driving and making a point of emphasis to get to the basket, where a lot of times Celtics would just pass around the perimeter. They'll make a little drive, but not even make it in the paint and kick it out and never collapse the defense. Where tonight it felt like Jalen and Jason were aggressive, especially that late bucket from Jalen where I think it was RJ Barrett tried to save it from out of bounds, and Grant Williams kind of tipped the ball over to Jalen and was kind of a one-on-one with Randall, and he just took it right to him. And where I feel like a couple of weeks ago, he probably, pulls it out, waits for the rest of the team to get up there, and they play a half-court game, and then him or Jason just take a, contested 3. So this was a much different side of the Celtics that we really have not seen this season.
Yeah, and I want to bring up the fact that you said, the toughness that you guys saw from the Celtics tonight, and, the hustle plays. My slice out the box tonight is the offensive rebounds, which was a big negative for the Knicks last game. This game, the Celtics had 18 in the first half. At the end of the game, second chance points they had 18 of in the first half. The end of the game with 20, which was that big one for Marcus Smart. 20-7 winning the second chance battle on 16-5 offensive rebounds. That was the key factor there. And really, the Knicks were a strong rebounding team for much of the season, right? That was one of the big things, with the Knicks when Mitchell Robinson was playing, and then when he was out at first and Nerlens Noel was kind of holding it down, Taj Gibson came in. The Knicks were still getting rebounds. The last couple of games, we've seen the Knicks give up way too many offensive rebounds, which have killed them. And then even this game, the first half, they got killed. They still kept it close. The third quarter, they kind of, got it under wraps. But then what happens at the end of the game? Marcus Smart gets in between the Knicks' 2 big men, Julius Randle and Nerlens Noel, and gets a big tip, a big putback, that ends up breaking the Knicks back. Now, again, what you say with Marcus Smart, he was 1 of 4 from 3 before hitting those 2 and 2 of 9 from the field. But like you said, he's just going to keep taking the home run and I feel like he likes to do it against the Knicks. Every time he wants to hit that big 3 and just let it fly, and it's just such a killer to get beat by a bad shooter.
Well, Slice, I like the fact that you harped on the fact that we keep giving up offensive rebounds and second chance points. And I think that goes back to what we discussed last podcast after the Nets game. And it's just that, we continue to give up these second chance points and these threes. And at this point, you got to chalk it up to maybe the defensive schemes from Tibbs. I think they want to concede the 3 and pack the paint. But the thing is, when you do that, you're conceding the 3, and then, you're depending on a late rotation. And when you get that rotation, it leaves guys out of position and they can't secure the defensive rebound. And,
biggest thing.
Yeah, and we get what happens, tonight, and it beat us. That's what led to that offensive rebound and the game-winning score. So, I don't know, man. At one point, I like the fact that we're leading the league in defending the 3. I think we try to leave guys open and make them take the 3s that we want them to take. But we're starting to see in crunch time, it's coming back to haunt us.
It's poor rotations, I feel like, too, right? You like to say the 3s that we want them to take, but I feel like it's 3s we let them take because so many times the Knicks just have poor rotation skills.
Yeah.
Because we harped on it last podcast, right? A great defensive team without a great defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you saw it too with like Reggie's double on Tatum. Is that it left, and this happened at another game too, where like RJ got caught in no man's land because somebody went and doubled. That's why it's like, RJ should have been the person that was coming in to double Tatum and not Reggie. It's like how can he commit to between 2 guys like that? And it's like he gets caught in no man's land, and then
and that's how you beat the Knicks right now. Is you don't rush a shot, you pass because the way they rotate, somebody will be open. Right, one of your shooters will be open, and we're seeing that a lot. Right, when teams take their time, they pass. The Knicks rotation is, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're playing great defense, but it's kind of like a scrambling defense, like, because they don't have great individual defenders. They're expending so much energy trying to find the guy that's open cover. At some point, they're going to tire out, right? So I don't know if that's part of the factor why they start to fade in the second half and the fourth quarters. But, and as it is, they don't have the youngest legs as a group, right? The guys that play the most minutes, they're getting on in years. So I think, a combination of that actually concerns me going forward is, we've talked about this, right? So are they getting tired as a team, right? Not just Randall, but as a team. And what does that mean? And how much can that be sustained if you just can't score?
Right. Because it's only and like RJ did have like a week and a half or so where he wasn't like great, but he's been kind of the most consistent Knicks since the All-Star break. So It's like somebody needs to help out, and like Randall's putting up stats, but he's just being inefficient. Does anyone have his shooting slashes in front of you tonight? Or
yeah, I got him. He was 9 for 23, 2 of 6 from 3. Only shot 2 free throws, which is kind of surprising for a guy who, likes to go to the hoop all the time.
Yeah.
But I felt like he pulls up a ton, like just kind of pulls up like low percentage shots.
And after the injury, after that injury is what he's been doing. And he was hitting a lot of mid-range jumpers early on in the season, right? We're like, oh, we like this Randall. He's hitting them. Tired legs, a thigh contusion. What's going to happen now? And they look like bad shots.
Yeah, before this game, I saw he was shooting, I think, 45% from the mid-range. And I think now it's in the 30s. So that's a dramatic drop-off. It kind of reminds me of when we brought Trey Burke in that time, and he just like completely lit it up from the mid-range, and we're like, we found our point guard, we did it. And that wasn't sustainable.
I have a question for you guys. How does Emmanuel Quickly only play 13 minutes for you guys? Like
Tom Thibodeau?
He's got an R next to his name that stands for rookie, and Tom Thibodeau happens to be his coach. So.
Because after the game in June, when the Knicks smoked the Celtics by 30, like everyone was so impressed here with Quickly, and like, how can't the Celtics draft a guy like this? Like, he's everything you need, and just such a talented guard, and like crushed the Celtics. And then you look, he barely played tonight, and it just feels like the trade for Derrick Rose, Tom Thibodeau got his binky and is giving all the minutes to Rose instead of Quickly. And I feel like that's not great for Quickly's development when he can be, an impact player, on a good team.
Preaching to the choir, man. Knicks player development has always been a challenge.
That's the trade-off.
Cut you off, man.
Go ahead, Coke, what do you think?
The thing is, most of our fan base, we're not really too upset with Rose getting those minutes. We don't want to see Peyton anymore. And, he's become a favorite of Tibbs, and he's still starting. The hope is that we were kind of hoping that Rose would take that starting spot and Quickly would eat up those backup point guard minutes. But another thing that they're out there just in defense of Tibbs is, Quickly's been a little bit of a funk lately. He's not shooting.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, he's been off a little bit lately. And then on top of that, he's not the greatest defender yet, which is understandable for a rookie. But the three-point shot has abandoned him. The floater is no longer as efficient as it was, in earlier spurts this season. And I think he's kind of hitting the rookie wall. And like Moose said, I think the whole team is hitting the wall. Not rookie wall, but just a wall in general from all the minutes played. And we would like to see Tibbs go deeper into that bench. When these guys don't have it, maybe be a little quicker to dig a little deeper into a Frank Ntilikina for defense or Kevin Knox for the three-point shot. And even Obi, he's been showing a little bit of flashes lately. We were on him a little bit, Greg, but, he's showing a little something. So we want to see him get more than 12 minutes a game as well.
Because even tonight, I think the bench in the fourth quarter made it to like the 7-minute mark, and that very rarely happens. Like we were like still punching back. I feel like it was that almost air ball by Obi is when Tibbs finally was like, I need to pull the plug on this experiment. Enough. He's like, that's it, that's enough. But yeah, like I think that's been our biggest beef is that he kind of like he plays our guys like Randall and RJ like the whole first quarter and the whole third quarter, and it's like if you like pulled them back a little bit, like maybe pull RJ, with 2 minutes left in the third, or Randall with 3 minutes left in the third, and you just leave only one of them out there, that you can mitigate some of the runs that kind of happen. And it's just like small little tweaks, I feel like, would make our team way better. I mean, we're overachieving like crazy anyway, but like I think we probably win more of these close games with small little tweaks to his rotations. A minute here, a minute. Go for it.
Yeah, it's funny just kind of how Stevens and Thibodeau kind of have different approaches, where the Celtics are like abundantly cautious with their players. Like Tatum played 42 minutes. Like that's such a rarity this season for him to play that many minutes. And then even Smart and Brown playing 36 on a second night of a back-to-back, that's really high for them, to get in that total, because Celtics have just been super cautious. Like they're not playing Kemba Walker in back-to-backs, even though Walker has kind of come out and said, hey, look, that's not my decision. That's the team's decision to not play me in back-to-backs. So it's kind of different to see kind of two perspectives there. But you're right, though, that it's also kind of interesting to see two teams that had the identical records going in tonight, but the storylines around them are so different, where the Knicks are an overachiever while the Celtics are, no one thought that they would be battling for the 7th spot, at the start of the season. And seeing those kind of, two teams on different paths with the same records definitely stood out tonight.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting too. Like you said, that with this win for the Celtics, loss for the Knicks, put them in the 7-8 spot respectively. And then the last game of the season for both teams on Sunday, May 16th, is against each other too, and what could be, key for playoff battles, the play-in, the 9-10 spots. So, last game against the Knicks won by 30. Celtics got the revenge. So, it's going to be interesting. It's always fun to play a division rival at the end, especially this season when it looks like there's going to be, something to play for sure.
Do you guys think that the COVID season has kind of like caused like how close the East Coast, like the bottom half of the East is? Do you think that is COVID, or like the lack of fans, or do you think it's just that like everyone's kind of mediocre and that it has nothing to do with COVID?
I think it's a little bit of both. With COVID and the schedule being condensed, guys they're out of rhythm. At this point last year, they weren't playing right now. So, at the end of the day, everything's just thrown out of whack. And I think we're seeing that reflected in some of these records. And as you said with the fans, the buildings are not full. So it's kind of different doing it in an arena where there's only, 2,000 people, 3,000 people. And for some places, no fans, rather than, a packed house. When your legs are tired.
It's like every game's in Minnesota.
And even for a team like the Knicks, when your legs are dead and you hear that crowd chanting defense, and that organ is going, that might give you that push to dig a little deeper and give it something that you didn't think you had. And teams are missing that. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I agree. I think, if you look at the home and road records, my guess is that they're a lot more even, right? Without the fans, there really isn't that home court advantage as much. And I think some teams, some players feed off of that, and that could be responsible for their, unimpressive play. While other players, the younger guys, all right, the younger teams, they're doing a little better, because I think not having that sort of pressure and the fans screaming at you allows them to kind of play their game a little bit better. So I think that's part of it. The other part is, we're still seeing all of these kind of consolidation of these big time players, right? The Nets keep adding guys like it's going out of style. It's making it very difficult for the other teams to really do anything. And so what you have is teams bottling up, right in that middle. It was surprising. I mean, the Celtics, definitely the most surprising. I mean, Greg, what do you think is causing this underwhelming play?
I think it goes back to just Tatum and Brown, I don't think, are still ready to be the main two guys on a team. And just the team doesn't know how to play really with one another on the offensive end. And like I said, it's a lot of ISO ball, give the ball to Jalen, give the ball to Jason, and just see what they can do with that. And that's not a winning product in today's NBA anymore. Isolation ball has gone out the window. long before. Just see what the Utah Jazz are doing, with it's just ball movement and threes. And the Celtics haven't been keyed in defensively at all. They've been a top 10 defensive rating team under Stevens for most of his 8 years in Boston. And this year they're, I think, middle of the pack, have been bottom third, for some of the season. Yeah, it's been, you look at all the talent that they have, but they don't grind out wins. They don't deal well with adversity. Stevens said after the Dallas Mavericks loss last year, he's like, this is our MO. We don't respond for 10 to 12 minutes, and teams know that about us. And for a coach to come out and just blatantly say that, it's especially a coach like Brad Stevens, who's like tight-lipped about everything and everything sunshine and rainbows, was, definitely different. So, and I think for them, it's why this win stood out so much for them. It wasn't a flashy, Jason Tatum went off for 40 points type of win. It was a grinded out, needed, all 48 minutes. Different players had to step up, whether it was Tristan Thompson, coming out of health and safety protocols, playing for the first time in a month, and providing some key minutes. And Marcus Smart makes his plays, and Jaylen Brown and Tatum, make their contributions as well. So that's why this win really stood out. It was a stark contrast to just the way they've been playing, because usually they collapse in these types of situations this year.
Right.
Greg, I did have a question for you. How much of that rumor that was going around that Stevens might be on his way out, or, he's not in favor with the front office anymore, is there really any fire beyond that smoke, or is that just a frustrated fan base and frustrated, media?
I was about to ask
probably
more
probably more frustrated fan base and frustrated media. Danny Ainge has, backed the coach 100%. So hasn't the owners. They back Stevens, and basically, have gone as far to take the blame of this season off the players and put it on Stevens. There was that rumor that Stevens was interested in, or that he was the leading candidate for the Indiana job, and he shot those down. He called himself a masshole too, to try to kind of
endear himself to Massachusetts.
Yeah, exactly. Try to endear himself. Said he goes to Dunkin' Donuts now and swerves in traffic and all of that.
What are you doing over here, kid?
Yeah. So he and here's the thing about Stevens. I think he's kind of showing some weaknesses this season, because you do have a top 5 talented team in the league with 2 young superstars that they're not getting the best out of. So while I do think he is a really good coach, and probably a top 5, top 10 now coach in the league, this is his 8th season now. They've never made it to an NBA Finals. They made it to 3 Eastern Conference Finals in the last 4 years, and that's why this year is so disappointing. Where
they've gotten for you guys.
Yeah, they've gotten more out of less talented teams. He brought a team of Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, young Jaylen Brown, young Jason Tatum to an Eastern Conference Finals, and now with Jaylen and Jason maturing into all-stars, they're the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. So, and it feels like none of the Celtics players can really pinpoint to why they, have slipped this season, and it's been a frustrating one, and one that I think is eating at the players a little bit. Jaylen said tonight that him and Jason had a talk after the Philadelphia 76ers game to try to ignore the noise and keep kind of their heads on, and not let this season go slip any further away.
So Greg, to follow that up, looking at the team and moving forward, did the window of opportunity close? I mean, did Ainge hold on to the treasure trove of assets a bit too long instead of cashing in for another big piece that can maybe function as a true number 1 and slot Tatum and Brown down to a 2 and a 3?
I mean, it's tough to say. I think hindsight's 2020, right? I think everyone knows now he probably shouldn't have held on to those picks as long as he did, especially too, he didn't hit on those picks. Like Romeo Langford started tonight, but he's done absolutely 0 in 2 years with the Celtics. And Aaron Nesmith, who was the 14th pick overall in this past year's draft, he gets more DNP CDs than anybody on the team, and he can't help the Celtics. And he came in and he was supposed to be the shooter that the Celtics desperately need, because the Celtics don't have someone who can just come in off the bench and, just shoot threes. And that's what Aaron Nesmith was kind of labeled as. And so missing on those picks when guys like quickly, are going after these guys that they've missed at the 14th overall in back-to-back years, really, digs in deep to a team that is underachieving this year and that knows it's underachieving.
Yeah,
Sound like a Knicks fan complaining about draft picks.
Yeah. Well, I really think it's we kind of suffer from the same issues. Realistically, I think we lack that guy that gets like consistent dribble penetration all the time. Okay, we're back.
Cool.
So
yeah,
we were just talking about Kemba Walker before the stream went down. Yeah, I mean, he's really just robbing the whole city of Boston right now.
Yeah, like I was saying, I think he's probably the most overpaid player in the league, and I mean that's no fault of his own. Get the money while you can, but and he's four-time All-Star, and he just hasn't had the same impact coming off that knee injury that I think the Celtics had hoped for. And like you're saying about dribble penetration, he can get to the hoop, and has shown the explosion, back that he used to have, but he's not a great finisher at the hoop, right, given his size. So that's really hurt him, and he just doesn't seem to, be able to, orchestrate the offense like they need it to be. And with him scuffling, it's really hurt them, because they've put this big paycheck in his hands that's kind of tied him up salary-wise when they've extended Jalen and they extended Tatum. And now with Kemba making $30+ million a year, it's like, wish we could get more production.
Yeah, you're basically cap hell now. And we're very used to that. We had Amari Stoudemire sitting on our bench for a little while and him being completely useless. And another one recently, Joakim Noah, who we're still paying him $6 million.
Yeah, he's still on, right?
Still getting paid.
Yeah, we get $6 million.
And I think that kind of,
like, Kemba shows his flashes, and like he'll have a game 30 points here, here and there, but like it's very few and far between now, and it's such a stark contrast to last year where it felt like, right, they set these high pick and rolls for him, and he's hitting threes left and right, and he's just making plays, and it's just like it's tough to pinpoint. I'm sure it's been a mightily frustrating season for him where he doesn't play back to backs. Is that taking him out of his rhythm? It's just really tough to pinpoint what exactly has caused such a steep decline in his play.
Yeah, and I think it's more frustrating because, like was mentioned earlier, right, when Tatum and Brown were young, the Celtics made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. You guys were looking for that big piece, made a splashy acquisition and getting Kemba Walker to become that star player to help these kids grow. But like you said, you guys haven't been back since, and I think that really adds to that frustration. And now, you're seeing it now. Celtics are the 7th seed. I think that's going to end up, fixing itself, because right now you got the Hornets and the Hawks are the 4th and the 5th seed. Still, I think there's 4 games separating between the 4th seed in the East and the 10th seed. I think you're going to see a lot of changes there. The Celtics are going to move up. The Raptors, Heat are going to, I think they'll fill out the top 4 or 5. The top 3 teams in the East are going to stay the same. What everybody thought it was going to be before the season started, right? But I think you'll kind of see the East fall into how it's supposed to be. But yeah, I think you hit it on the head with Kemba, man. It's just such inconsistency from a player who was brought to bring stability to the Boston Celtics.
Like you look at his stats compared to the guy that ended up being a sign and trade with Terry Rozier, which is all a mirage anyways. I don't get it was like the Gordon Hayward thing. Like they signed with Charlotte and then they, get the trade exception. But Terry Rozier and Kemba have very comparable stats, and Kemba's getting paid like 4 years, 120, 140. I forget the exact number. And Terry Rozier's getting like 3 years, 54. and is younger than Kemba. Whether Terry would fit in on this team, because we saw him the other night on Sunday, and he likes he's never seen a shot he hasn't liked and on the court. But then too with the Celtics, they never replaced Gordon Hayward when he left, and so they used a little bit of the trade exception and got Evan Fournier, who's in health and safety protocols, and he's played like 3 games. In his first game, he had 0 for 10 showing from the field, which was a great start to his Celtics debut. nothing
the fans wanted.
He was the guy. He was the top guy for us.
Yeah, I'll still take him right this second.
He raided the ship and he had like 6 threes in the fourth quarter in one game, like a couple games after that. So he's raided the ship, but they don't have him right now. So it was interesting tonight too to see like how are the Celtics going to play without Kemba. They don't really have a bench that can produce points, and like who was going to start? Were they going to start Peyton Pritchard? Were they going to start Romeo Langford? Were they going to start Semi Ojeleye? So started Langford, and he's just played his 3rd game of the season. So, and he's shown a little bit of flashes. Still a young player. I've kind of packed my bags on him. I don't think too much of him, but he'll probably prove me wrong. Yeah, he's a body, right?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how we feel about Frank Ntilikina and Knox. That they're there. There's small hope. Slice over there, he's still Frankie Hive, hoping for big things.
I like players that play defense, man. I like players that. What can you say? I grew up on the '90s Knicks. I love defense. But tonight the Knicks, we got beat by 3 players.
When it was announced that the TD Garden was going to be allowing fans back in the building, he goes 3 words: about fucking time.
All right, we're back. We are back.
All right.
We're back. All right. So, like I was about to swing it to Coke, man. It's always tough to say when the Knicks take an L and we got to call out the other team, right? But Coke, you got to give us your scrub of the night for tonight, man.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, it's getting tougher and tougher when we hit the skid. What is this? Our 5th loss in the last 6 games.
5th and 6th.
Yeah,
but I'm obligated. I'm obligated, and I'm a man of my words. So I'm gonna give it to Grant Williams. Just looking at the stat sheet.
Oh, poor Grant.
He was a donut. You know what I'm saying? He's straight zeros across the board offensively. No points, 0 for 3 from the field. Only 3 rebounds, 1 assist. So scrub of the night goes to Grant Williams. So Greg, man, you got a lot of options on the Knicks. That's for sure. So give me your scrub.
I actually thought this was kind of tough because it was such a gritty, sloppy game that it was tough for one person to really stand out. But I guess I'm going to do this because I like my man quickly. I'm going to go. My scrub of the game is Alfred Payton. I don't understand.
Right answer.
Good. Because I'm glad that was the right answer. I just don't understand why he's starting, why quickly isn't getting his minutes, and why he's playing so much. So he seems like a guy who should be kind of end of the bench, almost out of the league type of player. But yeah, my scrub of the night, Alfred Payton. Didn't really see him do too much out on the floor.
But,
I think he turned the ball over.
Hold on.
You can come back anytime.
Did you guys see when the game was already out of reach and he hit the fluke 3?
I know.
And he had the game face on like he just did something real.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
The useless 3 to get your ego back up, right?
Honestly, it's shocking that he hit it. Honestly, I'll let you pat yourself on the back, Peyton. You deserve it. You hit a ridiculous off the dribble 3 that I don't think you would had probably the first time in your career you've ever done that.
Celtics are more than happy to let him shoot it in that situation. I think even Clyde said it. He's like, the Celtics don't really care that he hit that. He can shoot that all day if he wants to.
That's exactly what he said in the replay. He was just like, "What? That's the shot they want you to take."
That's it. But let's take a look forwards for both teams. Both teams get a day off back on Friday. The Knicks get to play John Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies, while the Celtics are back in Boston to play Minnesota. Greg, I'm going to kick it off to you. Why don't you give us your predictions for both teams? You can start it off with Boston against Minnesota, then let us know how you think the Knicks will fare against Memphis.
So final game of a 7-game homestand for the Celtics on Friday. You get Karl Anthony Towns in town, which will be, interesting matchup given the way the Celtics defended Joel Embiid the other night, non-successfully defended Joel Embiid. But good opponent to end the homestand. My only concern would be the Celtics looking ahead to West Coast swing where they got, I think, Denver and Portland and the Lakers on the schedule. So do they already have their bags packed and thinking of the West Coast and getting out of the bad weather and into some nice weather for some change? But a game that they should win. But again, with the Celtics team, you never know what version is going to show up. On any given night, they should roll. Kemba will be back in the lineup. And that obviously should help them, and they should roll and finish off kind of a underwhelming homestand with a win. But I guess we'll have to wait and see till Friday night, where if they don't come and play with the kind of tenacity that they did tonight, then it could be a long 48 minutes for them. And Knicks got Memphis. Memphis just had Ja Morant went down, right?
Yeah, I think I saw that. I think
he
I don't
left
know how serious of an injury it is, though.
So, that should help them. I mean, Knicks are right there. They're, one of the best stories in the league this year, where they're right in the thick of things for the playoffs, and, will probably be at least in the play-in tournament. So a good chance for them to get back on track. I mean, it sounds like you guys desperately need a win, losing 5 out of 6 at such a critical point, because it's like there's only 20 games left in the regular season, so all these games gain so much more importance down the stretch.
Nah, for sure. Coke, let's swing it to you for your predictions.
All right. I'll start with Boston. They're going up against the Timberwolves. We happen to catch them at a bad time, and Towns, he's kind of our kryptonite, and we struggle with him. So I think you guys are going to have some trouble as well with Towns down low, and Anthony Edwards. He's been playing better as well. So that'll be a good matchup on the wing, seeing Edwards go up against Tatum and Brown. But I'm going to call for the upset. I'm going to say that the Timberwolves are going to pull it off. So back on the Knicks side of things,
no nice things for Boston.
Never. New York, Boston, never.
I gotta keep it real, man. I'm not a Boston guy at all. But back to the Knicks, facing the Grizzlies, Morant is questionable, so we don't know if he's going to play. The Knicks desperately need to win. I hope they get it, and I think that they will. You never want to lose 6 out of 7, so, hopefully they pull that off. So I'm going to call for a victory, but I will say this. I think the best case scenario with the Knicks going forward is, let's make the play-in tournament and lose and don't make the playoffs, because that way we get the experience of looking like we're ready to make the leap and gaining credibility with, free agents and players around the league. But let's fall just short and, get a better pick. And I think that's a win-win scenario. So I just took a short view and a long view.
I'm all cool with revving up the tank. That's not.
Jimmy, you've been ready for the tank since the start of the season.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was gonna say, I feel like every podcast, Jim's always pushing for the tank.
Yeah, no, I've been like in heated debates with people in the forum over draft prospects. So it's like I've been eyeballing the draft for a while. So if things fall apart, it's really not the end of the world. I'm really disappointed that Ja may not play, because RJ's been honestly, I'm going to say RJ's been better than him this year. So it would have been nice to have RJ show Ja up. And now we may not get that opportunity, which is kind of disappointing. But even if he does play, it's tough to say. Is Jaren Jackson Jr. back? Does anybody know?
I don't think he's back yet. No.
What's he hurt with? He's been out all year.
Not broken leg, some major leg injury.
Yeah, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I'm gonna call win for us, because I think that RJ is gonna bring it again, and I don't think without possibly Ja being banged up, I don't think they have enough people that can create to make something happen. And as for the Celtics, I don't know. I feel like you guys don't really have any big. I guess with Tristan Thompson back, that's a big enough of a body to you can throw at Towns to slow him down. And I feel like if you just put Smart on Edwards, he's going to get it in his head. And I don't think Edwards is the most focused of guys in the world. So I think if you get, my heart tells me to say that I want the Celtics are going to lose, but I feel like you guys have too many guys that can stop the Wolves. So I'm going to predict W's for both of us.
Yeah, I'm gonna. For me, I think with Ja and out, and with the Knicks on a really bad slide, I don't see them losing. Right? Previous Knicks, yeah, absolutely. This will be they just roll over and play dead. I think the Knicks will pull it out. As far as Boston, I think tonight's game was a really good sign for Celtic fans, right? So the guys seem to be focused and they can play consistently for the whole 48 minutes. The Wolves are the worst defensive team in the NBA, right? So I think whereas it's hard to score against the Knicks, especially if you don't have that primary guy that can create, as a number one. With the Wolves, you guys will really have no problem. With Jalen and Tatum going, I think you guys will coast, regardless of how poorly or disappointing the season has been. I think you guys will blow out the Wolves. That's my predictions. Yep, I'm gonna go with a blowout.
Yeah, now my thoughts on it, like you guys said, I hope Ja plays. Whether Ja plays or not, I do think the Knicks get a win over Memphis. This Knicks team, even though we've lost 5 out of 6, that hasn't really been the norm this season, and the Knicks have bounced back from tough losses. So I think the Knicks do get a win against Memphis, whether Ja's in or not. And like Jim said, I'd love to see RJ show up, Ja, just to show up some of those haters. In terms of Boston, the big question is how dominant is Cat going to be? You just saw Joel Embiid run all over the Sixers, or run over the Celtics, sorry. I mean, or is another dominant, offensively talented center going to do the same? I think there were some great points brought up about the wings. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum are much better than Anthony Edwards and McDaniels, or whatever is rookie, Jaden McDaniels. Yeah. I think I'll call a Celtics win because I think they might have turned the corner a little bit. They're playing better. They're playing tougher. But, I could see Cat dominate down low. But, Minnesota just lost to an undermanned Pacers team, and the Celtics are much more talented than that. So, same thing Jim said. I think it's going to be wins for both teams there. But, let's wrap it up, fellas. Let's get to our final thoughts. Greg, I'll kick it off to you. Anything you wanted to bring up you didn't get a chance to talk about yet?
I think, guys, just Celtics seem to be trending in the right direction, winning 3 out of the last 4, holding 2 out of their last 3 opponents under 100 points. And, this win, like I've been saying all night, just different win in the past. Gritty, kind of old school Celtics win that, has been kind of the norm in the Brad Stevens era. And for them to kind of get that win tonight, it could be a stepping stone for them, but we've thought this way before. We thought, when the Celtics won 4 straight going to the All-Star break, they were gonna, that was gonna be the turning point, come out of the All-Star break, lose 4 out of 8. So I'm not gonna believe it until I actually see it. And they got a big West Coast trip coming up. So I think a win over the Timberwolves, whether it's a blowout win, close win, not going to tell you much about this team until that West Coast road trip when they're facing the Nuggets, the Trailblazers, and the Lakers, and then got Golden State at home after that. So could they be in the right direction? Yeah, but still an underachieving season nonetheless.
Sure. Coke, how about you, man?
Well, I'm just going to piggyback off of, Greg's sentiments. To look at the positive outlook, it seems like the Knicks just bring out the grittiness in every team that we play. Because, we get into these alley fights with guys, and then, you hear the post-game presser kind of like, what Coach Stevens said. And he says, the Knicks are the most physical team that they played all year. So I kind of feel like even when we lose, we win. Because we're just gaining positive equity, all throughout the league. So every loss, it just builds up the image of the Knicks' identity, of a tough, gritty team that's willing to fight. Even if they take a L, they at least earn some respect. So, let's just keep doing that. Let's build off of the culture, even if we're not winning every game. And let's see how far that takes us as far as acquisitions moving forward.
I'm going to say pretty much how I wrap up all of these shows. It's awesome to see RJ Barrett blossoming. I think he's going to be really good. I mean, the fact that he's hitting 6 3-pointers in a game is just remarkable, considering that nothing like this happened at Duke or last year. I mean, he's like 14 of 20 in the last like couple games from three, and that's like remarkable. And I think he's something like a good 30 games, maybe 40 games that he's shooting actually over 40% from three. It's remarkable. And I honestly, I think sooner rather than later, we might see a transition from Randall taking the most shots to RJ, especially on a night like tonight. Like, it definitely needed to happen. And we clearly need another perimeter guy. It's something that we're missing, and it's like that's how we kind of take our next step. We just need to find that guy. I don't know where it's going to come from, but we have some pieces in place, and it finally feels like we're on the right direction.
Lonzo Ball.
Yeah. I mean, the Knicks are heading into the offseason, I think, in great position. They have like $75 million in cap.
Yeah.
If they can hold on to a roughly 500 team, I think that'll show, right? Especially with Tibbs, right? Because all the stars know Tibbs, right? Tibbs is part of Team USA, so he's got clout there. The front office is not the Heckle and Jekyll show that we've seen in the past. It's a solid front office with stable guys from winning organizations. I think that'll sell to players. So I do think the future is bright. My concern right now with this season is Randall. The last 6 games, he's looking more and more frustrated every single game. And that's kind of spawning this kind of bad Randall during stretches.
Yeah.
He needs to be able to rein that back in to help the Knicks. I know he's frustrated because he's not getting calls. He's getting hammered, right? But because he's so big and strong, it's not showing, so they're not calling it. And he's getting frustrated. He's got to stop that. If the Knicks are trying, if has any hope of really, making a final push for the rest of the season. He's their guy, right? He's the guy that stirs the soup for them. If he's off, the rest of the Knicks, they're going to struggle. I want to win, right?
Yeah.
I don't want, I'm kind of the anti-Jim with that. I don't want to take a shot at the lottery. I want to win as many games as possible. And they need good Randall with the right frame of mind. So that's what I'm really concerned about. Just watching him this past 6 games, something's not quite right, kosher with what's going on in his head. So hopefully he can straighten that out. I was hoping for a few easy wins or easy games for him to do that, but I don't know how much of that we got left to go. But, that's where my take is. So positive for the season, positive for the future, concern for Randall this season.
No, definitely some good thoughts all around. It was just the same old story. It's been lately for the Knicks. 3.5 solid quarters before relinquishing yet another fourth quarter lead to take an L. It was a great RJ shooting performance tonight, something we've all wanted to see all season, but it just went to waste as the Knicks once again got killed on the offensive glass. The Knicks, again, we get one day off between losses before heading back to MSG to face Memphis on Friday. Greg, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight, man. It was really a pleasure having you on. And we thank everybody for tuning in to this edition of the No Blood, No Foul podcast presented by Real GM. We'll see everybody on Friday night, and we out.